There's always this controversy about who was the first person to actually set his foot on the Everest. Was it actually Tenzing or Edmund Hillary?
People think that the summit of Everest, there's a line, and then you cross that, you reach first. But actually, the summit of Everest is very, very plain like this.
For people who aspire to actually go up to the summit, is there a different kind of physical training that you need?
More than physical training at sea level, you need to spend time on the mountains.
Okay.
You have to come and do treks to base camp. But one of the most difficult things is that altitude. Altitude kills people.
I think it also teaches you, decision making in the toughest environment.
I think one of the greatest things about the mountain is not to take the mountain for granted, as I said earlier, but humility. It teaches you to respect. You can always come back.
And a lot more girls are now going.
Yes, I'm glad to see that.
And what about climate change? I mean, how is that impacting the mountains?
Mount Everest base camp is 50 feet lower than it was when my father climbed. Mount Everest has been named as the highest dump yard, garbage yard in the world.
And what is the role of Sherpas in, helping people take this expedition? I know that the Sherpa community worships the mountain as goddess, right?
Like my father says, we don't conquer Everest, you don't conquer any mountains. You crawl into the lap, like crawling into the lap of a mother, And then the mother will give you the permission to get to the top and then come back down.
Welcome to another episode of my show. Now picture this. Icy winds swirling at the altitude of 28,000 feet. A flag fluttering in the vastness of the sky. And a man standing on the top of the summit. And maybe for this person, this was the first time on a summit, but it was definitely not the first time for his lineage. And when he stood there for the first time on the summit, he did not just touch the peak of the mountain, he also touched the soul of his father. My guest today, Jamling Tenzing Norgay, son of the legendary Tenzing Norgay, who first climbed the Everest along with Sir Edmund Hillary in 1953. So Jamling followed his father's footsteps and climbed the Everest in 1996, but his journey hasn't stopped just at the summit. Over the years, he has led, he has inspired many others to climb the peak, not just on the mountain, but also in life. Jamling, welcome to my show.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
It's such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
I'm sure we're going to talk about a lot of fun stuff.
Yes.
And a lot of maybe what seems to people challenging stuff. But before we dive into the snowstorms and the mountain peaks, just take us back to your earliest memories. Tell us, what was it like growing up as Tenzing Norgay's son?
Well, growing up in Tenzing Norgay family, we had a simple life.
Okay.
We grew up in Darjeeling, went to school in Darjeeling. My father, whole family lived in Darjeeling. And he was a very simple and humble man. Even with his fame, he never thought himself as a special person, as a famous person or a celebrity. He always thought of himself as a normal human being like anyone else. So he'd walk the streets, meet and greet people. He'd take autographs from people, take photographs. He was very patient with everyone, all the people who respected him and his fans. And so we lived a very, simple life with him. And he was a very disciplined man. He had a tough life.
Okay.
Since he grew up in Thame, in the village of Thame in Nepal.
Okay.
And he had the destiny, he was destined to climb this mountain.
How do you say that?
Many years ago, maybe about 100 years ago or so, a high Rinpoche, or high priest, a Tibetan monk, reincarnate, had made a prophecy that a Himalayan Buddhist would be the first to climb Chomolungma.
Okay.
And also, there are stories about my father's second wife, Ang Lamu, being the manifestation of Mio Langsangma, or the mother goddess of Everest, to guide my father on this mountain.
Oh.
he, like I said, he was destined to climb this mountain because he grew up in the shadows of Everest, herding his yaks, his parents, his family's yaks all around the pastures in the shadows of Everest. And looking at that mountain every day, saying to himself, what is that mountain that is so high that no birds can fly? And that got the curiosity of him. And at a very young age, he ran away from his home in Nepal to come to Darjeeling to look for work to climb Everest. Because all the expeditions started from Darjeeling back in the 30s and 40s. So he got his first job on an expedition to Everest in 1935 with Eric Shipton. And consequently, he went on many more expeditions from Darjeeling. And he had tried to climb this mountain 6 times over a period of 20 years.
So he failed for the first 6 times,
For 6 times, yeah. And he also, on his first attempt, he made it higher than anybody else had ever done at that time, up to 27,000 feet. He performed better than all other Sherpas on the mountain or any of the climbers. He carried twice the load, he walked twice as fast, he'd go up, drop the supplies, come back, help other people carry their supplies as well. And he outperforms people that kept the British climbers mesmerized by who is this man, that is able to do these things. They called him like, the tiger of the snows at the time, the title that we got.
Okay. So you think it was his inner drive that was pushing him? Because there wouldn't be some, very fancy training institutes, etc. Nothing of that sort available to him. So it was the drive, and of course, as you said, he was destined to climb. Yes.
I mean, it was his drive. Within the Sherpas, he's the only one of the people that had interest in the outdoors, in exploring. He was an explorer. He was a true explorer. He had traveled across the Himalayas in his lifetime, before his climb on Everest. He had spent many years in Pakistan, which was part of India before 1947. And he had spent almost about a year in Pakistan exploring over there. He had been all the way up to Afghanistan, the Hindu Kush mountains, and all across the Himalayas from Nepal to Tibet and even to Sikkim. The whole Himalayan, trans-Himalayan range he had traveled. And as an explorer, he'd go with people who had interest in going, and he would be the first one to jump and say, okay, I will go. And he had gone to Tibet, walked from Darjeeling to Tibet almost about 5 times, in the 30s to 40s. And it took them over a month just to get there. And most of them was for expedition to Everest. But also he went with the great archaeologist, Giuseppe Tucci, an Italian archaeologist. He went twice to Tibet looking for old artifacts.
So those 6 attempts that he made where he couldn't make it actually, I mean, imagine not giving up for 6 times. Were you there to experience that at that time?
Well, unfortunately, no. I was born much after he had climbed Everest. And but I can see his determination. He was always determined to get things done. He was very perfect in doing things. And one of the most important assets of him was his discipline. He was a very disciplined man. Even at home, he'd, make us clean, wash dishes, clean, the floors, polish the walls. I mean, even though we had people to do it, he'd make us do it to teach us a lesson, a life lesson. He'd get up every morning at 4 o'clock, go for his walks, and encourage us to get up also in the morning, do the morning walks.
So all these qualities of humility, simplicity, and at the same time, discipline, determination, and drive, I think that's what kind of characterized him. But, there's always this controversy about who was the first person to actually set his foot on the Everest. Was it Tenzing, or was it actually Edmund Hillary? So having lived with this legacy, what is your take on this?
Well, that is a very, very common question everybody asks, the moment they find out I'm Tenzing's son. Oh, who climbed first? And it's controversial also because, before they even think about Everest being conquered.
Right.
After my father climbed Everest, he came back down the mountain. The first question was that who climbed first, And from what I've known, I never even bothered to ask my father about this question because I didn't think it was important. And for him also, it didn't matter who climbed first. And if you ask both Hillary's family or Hillary and my father also, they say we climbed together as a team. People think that the summit of Everest, there's a line, and then you cross that, you reach first. But actually, the summit of Everest is very, very plain like this.
Okay.
So you can actually, like 4 to 5 people can hold hands together and walk on the summit together. There is no fine line determining the summit.
Which says
so you
this
can all
one
be,
is first and
you
this
can all
one's...
be together and climb, reaching the summit first.
Okay.
But it was, for them, it was most important that they climb together as a team. Because without the help and support of all the other 25 Sherpas and the teammates, the other, team members, about 10 of the team members, this would not have been successful at all. And it was very important for my father, that it was a team effort. And even after they came back, this is a big controversy, they came back to Kathmandu. The question arose that, who climbed first? And the moment, there's one of the reporters asked my father to sign an autograph, and he did that. And next to the reporter went and wrote that, Tenzing said he climbed first. And then there was a big discussion between the British expedition leaders and my father saying that you couldn't have, why did you write this? My father said, I didn't do it. They tricked me. So there was this bickering, going on. And at the end, they got together and they signed an agreement saying that they climbed this mountain together. Hillary signed one letter and my father signed one letter in Nepali and English.
Okay.
And that document has been, we have not been able to locate the document, those particular documents, for many, many years.
Okay.
And I kept wondering whether it was with the Royal Geographic Society or with Hillary's family or Hunt's. And later on, when I was browsing through my father's old files, during the monsoons in Darjeeling, I looked through the files and then I found these letters intact. Both the letters were there. So we've kept those letters very safe and, safely and securely right now. And it basically says we climbed this mountain together.
And you, of course, followed on his footsteps and you climbed the Everest in 1996. Did you always think that the mountain was your calling?
Well, when I was around 8 years old, like in the Tenzing family, when we have holidays, we were in boarding school for almost 9 months in a year, back in Darjeeling. And in our
How many brothers and sisters are you?
We're 4 of us.
Okay.
3 brothers, 1 sister, and then I have 2 half-sisters also.
Okay.
Elder half-sisters. And in the Tenzing family, a holiday, unlike other families, like, in the cities, when the holiday means you go to the beach or you do a shopping mall or you go, nice places. In the Tenzing family, a holiday means put on your backpack, we're going for a walk, we're going for a trek.
Okay.
And so that was one of the greatest learnings, we've got to spend time. Because when you go trekking with the families, you learn a lot.
Right.
You
And
spend
you
time in nature.
time together.
Exactly, yeah. You spend very, very close time together. And difficult times also, you learn a lot. And in our family, that was it, trekking. And when I was around 8 years old, I followed my father on one of his many journeys into the Sikkim Himalayas. And before I knew it, I was standing on top of the small mountain about 18,000 feet.
Oh, okay.
And 18,000 feet is not big in the Himalayas, it's very, small. During that time, I realized that I love being in the outdoors, I wanted to climb more and more mountains, and I ultimately wanted to aspire to climb Everest. Because I looked up to my father as my greatest role model. He was my hero, and I wanted to become just like him. But I even asked him, when I was 18 years old, I asked him that, I wanted to join an expedition to climb Everest as the youngest climber at that time. Because there was an Indian expedition going up with Bachandripal, and he flatly said no.
He said no?
He said no. He said he climbed so that we wouldn't have to. He wanted to give us the best education so we can continue our lives in some other careers rather than climbing, because climbing was dangerous.
Yes.
And we sent us all to universities in the US, and we followed, our own dreams. The surprising thing is that after I climbed Everest and I came back home, my relatives, my uncles and some of my cousins, they told me that your father always told us that you would be the one to climb this mountain one day.
Amongst the children.
Yeah. And he knew it all along, but still he pushed us away as far as possible from the mountain to make our own decision and own mind.
But so, this is a very profound thing you said, that he said that he climbed the mountain so that you don't have to.
Yes.
Yeah. And yet, mountain was truly your calling, because you
yeah, definitely. I had this connection with the mountain also. I subconsciously, I realize that this is the mountain I'm going to climb. And it took me, almost 20 plus years to actually achieve my goals. I was taking jobs where I was working for an experiential education company in the US, in New York area. And and I was climbing a lot. Not high altitude, but, a lot of ice climbing, rock climbing, a lot of technical climbs I was doing. And then I decided to move back after I got married to follow my dream to climb this mountain.
Okay. So when you first climbed the mountain in 1996, what was that feeling like? Tell us how it felt up there.
Getting to the summit of any mountain,
Yes.
whether it's Everest or a smaller mountain,
Yes.
the experience of just getting to the summit is great. You have a sense of relief, exhilarating and excitement of that. Wow. Why? Because you worked so hard to get there.
Right.
Maybe years of training, maybe a few
Yes.
years of training, and mentally and physically you worked really hard to accomplish this goal. And I think it's similar to not only getting to the summit of mountains, but achieving goals in, anybody's life.
Yes.
You might have certain goals, somebody else might have another goal, to get to a certain point or achieve a certain amount in the business or, the families. And when you work hard and you finally achieve that goal, the satisfaction you get is exactly the same thing. But on the mountain, that satisfaction ends quickly. Because you have to think about, okay, now I have to get down.
Yes.
That's even more dangerous.
Yes. So, in fact, it's said that getting to the top is optional, but getting down is mandatory.
Yes.
Once you've gone there, you have to come down.
Exactly.
So, I mean, it's a simple sentence, but a very powerful sentence. What life lesson does this teach you?
Well, this actual phrase was quoted by my good friend, my climbing partner, Ed Wiesters, who had climbed within Everest in 1996. Climbing the mountain is optional, getting down is mandatory.
Yes.
And people forget that.
Yes.
There's a lot of people in the world that have died on the way down.
Right.
A lot of the deaths occur on the way down. They don't think, They use all the energy just to get up, and they don't keep anything left to come back because they're focused only on the summit. When you're climbing these mountains, you have to focus half your energy up and then leave half your energy coming down. Because you still have about 6 to 8 hours of walking back. And on the mountains, a lot of the deaths occur on the way down, especially up in near the summit area. Because what happens is people use up all the oxygen, they use all the energy. In high altitude, above 8,000 meters, there is only about 1/3 of the oxygen that you have down at sea level. So it's also known as the death zone. Human beings are not built to survive at these altitudes. You have to survive on oxygen. So that's the important thing, is to make sure that you have enough energy to come back down. And in altitude, you don't have much sleep. You don't get to sleep much. You don't have an appetite to eat. You go into hypoxia. Then you start to hallucinate, and you start to see things. You think you're walking on the snow, but it's actually that's the fog, and you walk off the face of the mountain. And these are the mistakes that people make on the way back down.
What have you seen happening in your expeditions? Some incidents like this?
Well, one of the most difficult experiences I faced was on Everest itself.
Okay.
I reached the summit, but on the way to the summit, I had my oxygen mask and my goggles. And I had to keep taking my mask off because the icicles were forming every few minutes, because it's minus 30, minus 40 degrees up there.
Right.
And I had to keep breaking the icicles. I had to keep taking my goggles off. And after a while, I just decided to take my goggles off and walk, which was a very bad mistake I had made. And I reached the summit with no problem. We spent almost 2 hours on the summit, the longest anyone ever stayed until then. And then came back down. And when I reached the high camp, went to sleep to get some rest, then I realized that I'm getting snow blindness.
Snow blindness.
Yeah.
Okay.
When you're exposed to the snow and the reflection, you get snow blindness and your retina gets really messed up.
Okay.
And it feels like as if someone's opening your eyes and throwing sand in there, So very painful. And I tried to put some eye drops, and I was like worried. That night I was really worried. I was one of the most worried I've ever been in my life. Worried about my life and thinking about how am I going to get down from 8,000 meters now at the high camp all the way down to base camp through the ice fall. In this condition, I could hardly, my eyes were almost like this. I could hardly see. And, but I had to do it. So I had two of my Sherpa friends, Dorje and Pasang, two of the guys. that helped me.
Okay.
I said, one of you stay in front, one behind, let's walk together. And I was able to get down. So things happen on the mountain, you anticipate, these things.
Right. Talking of the, not the elite mountaineers, but even the trekkers, the enthusiasts who want to climb the mountain. Now, they can either dream of really climbing the Everest, or they can dream of going to the base camp. So first, let's start with the simpler thing, going to the base camp. What kind of preparedness do you think a person needs to be able to say that, yes, I'm ready to go to the base camp?
Well, Everest Base Camp has become very popular. It has been popular for over the past 40 years. But I realize nowadays it has become a lot more popular for the Indian,
Population also.
people who want to seek adventure. I've seen a lot more Indian trekkers, trekking and going outdoors, which is good.
Good.
I'm glad it's finally happening that we are, because back in the 50s, adventure was not in the vocabulary of the Indian people. It's only in the recent years, in the 5 years, maybe the last Bollywood film about Amitabh Bachchan and Danny and, of going on Everest, that might have sparked. Somehow we have this tendency to follow things from the movies and, get encouragement, which is good.
Yes.
I'm glad it happened. And, but don't take it for granted. If you want to go to Mount Everest Base Camp, you need to train. It's not just a walk in the park. It's not a difficult trek at all. But one of the most difficult things is that altitude. Altitude kills people. You can get altitude sickness at any time. It doesn't matter who you are, how fit you are. Most important thing is to take it easy, take it slowly, and you acclimatize as you go up. And that is one of the best ways to get to any mountain, or to get to the base camp of Annapurna or Everest Base Camp. And I say you need to train. Don't take things for granted. Train every day. Do some running or jogging, or Stepmaster is one of the best.
Okay.
If you have elevators in your house, don't take the elevator. Take the steps. Carry a small backpack. Like 3 to 5 kilos weight, and go do the steps.
Okay.
And that trains you really well, and the acclimatization will come only once you get on the trek.
Right.
So take it slow and easy. Don't rush.
So get yourself physically prepared and trained for this.
Exactly.
And I mean, are there fitness coaches or somebody who tell you that, okay, now you are in a good enough shape to go to the base camp?
Well, I don't think there's any fitness level. There's like a marker that says, okay, you need this amount of fitness level to climb.
Okay.
I've seen people of all shapes and sizes and fitness that have made it.
Nice.
People I've seen, like they look very unfit, but they go really slowly. If it takes 10 days, they take 15 days to get there.
Okay.
And they make it. They just break the journey.
Okay.
And acclimatize, and they do it.
Okay.
And it's so encouraging to see such people,
Right. So people of different age groups are coming now?
Yes,
see?
I've seen people, the younger generation now, from the age, 18 to 20 to, all the way to 60.
Okay.
And 65 also they're pushing now. But in the Western world, Western climbers, they're on 70 years, 75 years, they're also still going because they're in shape. I think the oldest person I took on Everest Base Camp was 78.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and he was ahead of everyone else.
Okay, okay. And a lot more girls are now going?
Yes, I'm glad to see that. It was sort of a stigma that, women, shouldn't be climbing mountains, or, it was like a women's place somewhere else.
Yes.
But that has changed. And one of the first steps, I think, to change this thinking was my father.
Okay.
It's like Nehru told my father, we have to make 1,000 more Tenzings. So let's build a school. So the first mountaineering school was built in Darjeeling, which still exists now.
Okay.
And they train hundreds of students every year, from government officials to the army to, the people that serve in the border, on the line of control. And at that time, they initiated the first course for women.
Okay.
But they said we have to train the women also.
Right.
So my father had trained, they've got the first batch of women, basic course for women back in the 60s.
Back in the 60s, wow.
And now in the Sherpa culture also, women, they never climbed.
Okay.
They felt that, this is the husband's, the men's job to climb, and we take care of the house and the children. But in the recent years, maybe about 10, 15 years ago, this is starting to change. And one of the first person to change this attitude, the mindset, was Pasang Lamu Sherpa. She was
Okay.
the first Nepalese woman to climb Everest.
Okay.
This was in 1993.
Okay.
She climbed.
Okay. Okay.
But she died up there on the way down.
Okay.
And she was the one who initiated and started this, movement that women have, movement. And she fought for women's rights to
Okay.
climb.
Okay.
And after her, there've been lots of Sherpa women that have climbed. There's one recently, Dawa Yangzum Sherpa, a close friend of mine again. She's the first Nepalese woman to climb all 14 8,000 meter peaks.
Oh,
She just completed that mission last year.
Nice. One is about the base camp. The second is for people who aspire to actually go up to the summit. Is there a different kind of physical training that you need there?
Yes. If you want to actually climb the mountain, you need to prepare a lot more. Physical training is a lot more you need. But more than physical training at sea level, you need to spend time on the mountains.
Okay.
You have to come and do treks to base camps. You should be climbing smaller mountains.
Okay.
Gain the experience, get altitude, acclimate your body. Make sure that your body is fit enough to climb a 6,000 meter peak, 7,000 meter peak.
Okay.
It takes years of training to climb a big mountain. Mentally, you're preparing yourself, physically also. But it's like doing an apprenticeship.
You have to work.
Years of experience, and that is one of the things that people are missing these days. They're missing the journey. We have climbers, what we call them overnight mountaineers. Or the other day I heard somebody telling me that I'm a commercial climber. The new term, commercial climber, which means they just come and bag a summit and then they go. And just for the selfie, they come, they take a selfie with no climbing experience. And that is one of the biggest challenges we're facing today with the growing number of people that are attempting to climb Mount Everest.
But beyond the physical fitness, there's, I think, a lot of mental preparedness and mental resilience that, you should tune yourself to before you take up either even going to the base camp or, of course, climbing the Everest or any other mountain. What is the mental makeup that's required?
Mountains can kill you mentally. If you're not prepared, you'll be there giving up within seconds.
Oh.
You'll be just up there. It's like you look at the ice fall, you look up there, it's like psychologically, you'll say, get off. And people have done that. You need to prepare yourself, means you need to train yourself. You gain experience through climbing other mountains. Experience is walking on a crevasse, crossing ice falls, using the fixed lines to climb, doing some little more technical things to get the fear out of you. Fear is one of the greatest dangers on the mountain. Fear is what get people killed on the mountain. The moment they fear that, I might fall, they will fall. They will make the mistakes. So one of the most important things is to keep fear out. And that is all preparing yourself mentally.
This is so true in life as well, right? If you say, I can climb, you will possibly achieve that target,
Yes,
much more than if you don't believe in yourself.
Very true.
And physical fitness, mental preparedness. But what about the spiritual connect? I mean, is there anything that you need there as well? Because especially the mountain, I know that I'm not a mountaineer, I'm not a trekker, but I know that the Sherpa community worships the mountain as goddess, right? So do you need that respect for the mountain, that spiritual connect with the mountain before, finally being able to make it? Because if you don't have a calling, you will probably not just get there.
Well, for the Sherpas and Tibetans, Everest is what we call Chomolungma, the mother goddess of the world. And Myo Langsangma, she's the deity that resides on Everest. She's the deity of inexhaustible giving. And we pray to her. Like my father says, we don't conquer Everest, or you don't conquer any mountains. You crawl into the lap, like crawling into the lap of a mother,
Okay.
And then the mother will give you the permission to get to the top and then come back down.
Okay.
You cannot be arrogant.
Right.
Nature has the ultimate say. You don't determine whether you're going to get to the summit. Nature will tell you when you'll get up there or whether you'll survive or not.
And what is the role of Sherpas in, helping people take this expedition? Because I think they are kind of the foundation of any expedition. But you think people today value their roles and value them?
Well, the Sherpas, the word Sherpa means Eastern people, Sher and Pa. Sherpas migrated from Eastern Tibet about 500 years ago and settled in the foothills of the Himalayas on the Nepalese side.
So Eastern people.
People, Sher
Okay.
means east, Pa means people, yeah.
Okay.
And we've lived at these altitudes, high altitudes, about 12,000 to 16,000 feet, for 500 years. So we are able to adapt better and climb faster than most other human beings on these altitudes. It's in our genes. People say that Sherpas have slightly bigger lungs than other human beings, but our blood is able to carry more oxygen, than other human beings because of living at these altitudes for so many generations. And majority of the Sherpas that walk on the mountains, they're basically high altitude porters. They're carrying supplies on the mountain. They're carrying like 40 to 60 kilos on the mountain. They're setting up the camps. They're cooking all the meals. They're setting up the routes, the most dangerous work. They're doing all the dangerous, 90% of all the dangerous work they're doing. And as a paying client, you just come and then you just walk. You just walk with a small backpack with 1 liter of water and that's it.
The Sherpas will
and
do
the Sherpas are
everything
doing
else.
everything. 99% of expeditions in the Himalayas would not be successful without the help and support of the Sherpas. They are basically the unsung heroes of the Himalayas.
Right.
And they are the ones at the end who sacrifice their lives to save a person. I've known of a lot of stories where Sherpa have died because they tried to save one person who should not have been there.
Okay.
So almost about, I'd say at least about 180, about 150 or so Sherpas have died on Everest alone so far.
Oh, okay. And as you're saying, some of them just while trying to rescue the life of the mountaineer.
While trying to rescue people, bring them down, they lose their lives. While carrying supplies, a lot of them lost their lives. In 2014, there was a huge avalanche that came down off one of the mountains next to Everest, the Lola. And, just came down and it killed 18 Sherpas that were carrying supplies, within seconds.
Okay.
I mean, mountains are very unpredictable.
What are the other issues that people face when they are climbing up?
Altitude kills people. If you're not ready, cerebral edema, pulmonary edema, haze, these are all high altitude sickness. And when you get any one of these haze or HAPE, chances of survival is, very little. And a lot of people die because of hypoxia.
So you've seen people die
Yes.
in front of you?
Well, I have seen in 1996 when we did the climb, when I was climbing Everest, 8 people lost their lives. And I've seen the bodies, along the way, who had just died, and some of them were good friends of ours.
And those bodies actually just lie there, right?
Yes, yeah. It lies down there because it's frozen. Temperatures, it's very cold, so everything is frozen. And so as much as possible, we try to put them into the crevices, so that you don't have to see it.
Yeah.
Some people use it as a marker that, okay, this is the way you go, you pass this body, back then.
Okay.
So there are a few bodies still lying around, on the mountain. And sometimes the families ask for the bodies back, which is brought back, which is again more dangerous.
Yeah.
Because you're risking the lives of 10 Sherpas to bring one dead body back. It doesn't make sense. But that has been done.
And because of these storms and all, do the bodies also move?
Yes, and because the bodies don't stay in a certain place. You might see it there one season, the next season you come, it's covered up, or it's blown away, by the mountains.
But this is another mental toughness that the climbers have to kind of get used to, that you will see bodies on the way, but you have to focus on
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just reminder to yourself that if you don't be careful, you can end up like
You
that
will
person. There's a photograph I saw recently of one of the climbers that was just lying frozen just below the Hillary step, just below the summit. Just lying frozen. This guy's just walking through.
Yeah.
And then he just looks at it and tells himself also, there's a video of this person, and he says, if I'm not careful, I'm going to become like him.
Oh.
So be careful, on the way up.
Okay. And have you also seen issues like, people fighting with each other in the group and, so...
Well, that's normal.
That's normal?
Yeah, that's normal within groups, within several groups. That's normal. Not only really fighting, but argument, because somebody wants to go first, because the weather window is better, so they want to have the chance of getting first. It's greed, trying to get there ahead instead of thinking about team. They feel like, I might miss my chance to climb this mountain, so I want to go ahead first. And then there's, some argument that happens, which is normal.
What differentiates a successful climber or somebody who can make it vis-a-vis those who can't? Because I've read that, even to climb the Mount Everest, only 1 out of every 7 who attempts makes it.
Yes.
And then even the ones that make it, 1 out of every 5 of those dies.
Yes.
So what is it that differentiates the successful one and the not successful one?
Well, I think one of the factors that determines this would be your physical fitness. You need to be in really good physical fitness. You need to be in good shape. Number 2 is luck. You need a lot of luck behind you. And you need a very good team support you. 3 factors that are most important to make sure that you are safe on the mountain. And I have seen climbers, the well-known climbers, experienced climbers that have died on the mountain because of bad judgment. That's what happened in 1996, where so many people died is because of bad judgment.
So just explain to us, what does that mean?
Well, bad judgment means, on any mountain, whether it's small 6,000 meters or 7,000 or 8,000 meters mountain, if you're not on a summit, the rule of thumb is that if you're not on a summit by 1 o'clock, you turn back, no matter what the weather is like. Because afternoon weather normally gets bad. Normally, it turns worse. So you do not want to be stuck up there during that time. So rule of thumb is if you're not there by 1, you turn back. And in 1996, the reason we lost 8 lives, it was one of the worst disasters in the mountain's history. And we lost 8 people died. Experienced climbers like Rob Hall, Scott Fisher, the guides, mountain guides who had climbed Everest like 4 or 5 times before. And the bad decision they made was to continue going after 1 o'clock.
Okay.
And that is when events change around and turn around, and people ended up dying and coming back late into the camp.
There are so many learnings, life learnings actually, that mountain climbing teaches you. In fact, I'm just realizing that more as I'm talking to you. Like you said, your own father's example, that he tried 6 times first. He couldn't make it to the summit. So what would you like to tell people in life in general, and if they have to even climb the mountain, that it's okay to keep trying. It's okay to fail sometimes, but you have to keep trying to make it to whatever summit you want to get to in your life.
Of course. I think that was something my father experienced, and a lesson can be learned from his experiences. It took him over 20 years to climb this mountain.
20 years.
Over 6 tries, and on his 7th attempt, he finally made it. And on his 6th attempt, he was almost about 400 feet from the summit. I mean, he could literally see the summit, and he and his partner, they had some little oxygen problem, and the weather was not looking too good. So the 2 of them decided to come back down. And if they wanted, they would have made it to the summit with no problem at all. But they probably would not have made it back alive. And knowing when to turn around is very important in life. Don't be arrogant. Don't be overconfident. You can always come back, become stronger, and go and attempt it again. Whether it's climbing a mountain or whether you're making some, corporate board decisions or family decisions, that you can always turn around and go back again. And that's exactly what my father and Raymond Lambert, his Swiss climbing partner, did. So the following year, he was lucky to climb with the British expedition with Hillary. They had no problems, and they made it to the summit without any problem. It's a good lesson.
Right. I think it also teaches you, decision making in the toughest environments, I'm sure you've had to make some very tough decisions on your expeditions. What kind of decisions were they, and what does that teach you about life?
Well, tough decisions we always make in the mountains. When we were climbing in 1996, we were making the IMAX film. Filming team, we were up there on the mountain, and all of a sudden this disaster happened. 8 people died.
It was a storm?
It was a storm that occurred high up on the mountain.
Okay.
And we knew there were almost about 24 people still stranded up on the high camp with running out of oxygen and food, and we needed to get them down. A lot of them had minor frostbites, so they needed help immediately. So at this time, one of the most difficult decisions we made as a team was put down the camera equipment, no more filming. We'll go up, put together a rescue team, and go up and bring these survivors back down. And even we had stocked our high camp with all the oxygen and food supplies for our own expedition, for our own summit attempt. And we told them, just rip open our tents and take whatever you need, which meant sacrificing our summit attempt.
Right.
But this is a team decision that we made, one of the most difficult decisions we had to make. And it was the right decision.
Right. Sometimes you may have had to take a tough decision that you're seeing somebody dying. You can't do anything about it. You just have to move on. Have you taken decisions like that?
Well, fortunately, not a lot.
Okay.
Just once we had to take these decisions, which was again when we were climbing in '96. When I was climbing Everest in '96, some of the people that died were experienced climbers.
Oh.
Rob Hall, Scott Fisher, one of the greatest climbers who had climbed Everest many times before. And there was nothing we could do to help them. We even sent Sherpas up to Rob Hall, who was at the South Summit. He had no oxygen. He was totally out of energy and going into hypoxia. And we sent 2 Sherpas with oxygen supplies to get it to him. But they too turned around at halfway up the point because they feared their own life. Weather was turning bad, so they came back. And there was nothing we could do to help him. And so he survived one whole night in that Arctic temperatures up there, And the next day he survived the whole day. And then that evening, we couldn't get any help to him.
Oh.
And so the only thing we thought was, he wanted to talk to his wife. So we patched him through his radio, to our radio and to the satellite phone at base camp, to his wife in New Zealand, and they talked for the last time.
Oh.
And then he went to sleep in sub-zero temperatures and never woke up. And his wife was also pregnant with the first child at that time.
Oh. Okay.
So it was a very sad moment, to see that there was nothing, even though we were like 2 days away, there was nothing we could do to help him.
But then it also teaches you that, you still cannot get kind of bogged down in your aspirations. You see all this, but you still have to then try your next
Exactly.
expedition. Yeah.
So that's what happened. After that, what happened was, we came back down to base camp and we said, all right, what do we do now? All the other expeditions packed up to leave because there's a lot of people that were, they felt afraid, to go up. They felt demoralized. So everyone packed up and left to go back. Except for us, the IMAX, we had the filming team.
Right.
We sat down because we had one of the best climbers in the team. We had the A team in the mountain at the time.
Okay.
And we decided that whatever happened on the mountain was human error, bad judgment, that led to these things. Bad weather happens all the time on the mountains, you expect that. But what killed these people were bad decisions. So we decided that we were going to try again. And it took us, almost about 10 days to regroup and restock our, supplies at the higher camps. And we headed up this mountain. And the greatest thing was that we had the whole mountain to ourselves. Just our expedition, 10 of us, 5 Sherpas and 5 climbing members. The whole mountain was for us.
So what should a normal climber do, if there's an avalanche, if there's a storm? What should be the first reaction? What do you teach that person?
Well, take safety. Avalanche is something we cannot predict.
Right.
But we can at least sort of assume that it might occur, certain areas, the avalanche-prone areas that we know should not be there.
Okay.
So one of the first things is to avoid and understand the avalanche-prone areas and to stay away from there. There's nothing that can save you from an avalanche, except you prepare yourself with, the avalanche gear that you have, that somebody can help you. We have these beacons that you have on you. So in case you get stuck you get buried in an avalanche, you have the beacon that your teammates can, find you on the beacon. Exactly, and try to rescue you.
Okay.
But the chances of survival in avalanches is almost nil.
So talking about decision making in a tough environment, yes, sometimes your decisions can go wrong, but sometimes miracles can also happen, either due to right decisions or, as you said, partly you need luck and so on. Have you seen really some miracles happen for the good?
Well, I've heard about quite a few miracles that have happened on the mountain. And I've also seen one actually happen in front of my eyes.
Okay.
Which was when we were climbing in 96 with the disaster happening.
Right.
One of the climbers, American climber named Beck Weathers, he had managed to get to the high camp, from his climb. And he had actually, on the way back, he collapsed.
Okay.
Because he had no more energy to move, And the rest of his teammates saw him over there. They thought, he had died.
Oh.
So they left him, and they went to the tent. But miraculously, he caught up 24 hours later.
Oh.
In that he survived those extreme conditions, sub-zero temperatures. And he miraculously opened his eyes and he said to himself, I'm either going to walk off the face of this mountain or I'm going to crawl to that tent. And later on, when I talked to him, he said that, thinking about his family, his children, kept him alive and, motivated him to move. And so he managed to get to the tent, somehow. His teammates were shocked to see him. No one could have imagined that you can survive at these altitudes, with these temperatures outside in a tent. And the next day, we had to literally, when we went up to rescue the other people also, we had to literally carry him down the mountain because his legs, hands, face, everything was, he was a frozen man.
Oh.
So we literally carried him all the way down to Camp 2. And then from Camp 2, we brought him back to Camp 1. And then we put him in a helicopter, which was one of the first high altitude helicopters ever done until then. And we managed to put him in a helicopter and get him out to Kathmandu. And he survived, but he lost all his fingers, he lost his toes, he lost his nose, but he's still around. So he's very lucky to be alive.
Wow. So it's partly, yes, it's luck, but partly I think it's a whole lot of
his
mental makeup.
Exactly.
That, yes, I have to go back to my family.
Yes, it's a mental strength that got him back.
Yes. So even in life, when we have a dream, I think if we have the mental makeup, there are a lot of challenges
Of
that
course.
we can overcome.
Yeah, we can overcome.
Yes.
A lot of the challenges are mental.
Yes.
Like I said, you can be physically the strongest person on the planet, but you will not be able to you not even be able to cross the ladder or cross the crevice if you are not mentally prepared for that.
With, so many people going to the Everest Base Camp, as you said, and then also climbing the mountains, how do you feel? Is there a lot of overcrowding now, traffic jams? What does that make you feel? How are people treating the mountains now?
Well, the Mount Everest trek itself, just to the base camp, is very popular.
Right.
So, in average now, in 1 year, there's almost about 60,000 people, 60 to 70,000 people that do this trek every year. And the climb on Mount Everest has also become very popular, to climb the actual mountain, to the summit. This year, there were almost about 450 permits issued.
Okay.
Which means you have another 1,000 Sherpas going with these 450 people on the mountain. So the base camp is almost like a small village with almost about 2,000 people, with tents all over the place, sprawling with people. And so there is the crowding of the mountain. You've probably seen a lot of photographs of, the long lines on the mountains, on the summit ridge and all other places, people waiting in line to climb these mountains. So I feel it's dangerous to have so many people on the mountain, because you're only as fast as the first person.
Okay.
If the first person is slow, the rest of the 100 and 200 people waiting in line will be slow.
Okay.
And you don't want to take the chance on a mountain, because you have limited oxygen cylinders. You might be fitter and faster than somebody else. Why should you be waiting? There should be another line, So these are the dilemmas of, climbing and commercialization of mountaineering today.
And what about climate change? I mean, how is that impacting the mountains and of course, also the climbing, because these glaciers melting and so on and so forth?
Well, climate change is a very big issue around the world. And I've seen, particularly in my case, I've seen this in the Himalayas.
Okay.
I've seen a lot of the glaciers receding. Mount Everest base camp is 50 feet lower than it was when my father climbed.
Oh, 50
because the glacier,
feet lower.
the base camp is basically on a glacier.
Right.
So everything is melting and, it's much lower now. The glaciers have receded all over the Himalayas. This is a big problem, not only in the Himalayas, but around the world. You've probably seen the recent glacial melt that, wiped out a whole village in Switzerland.
Yes.
A similar thing happened in Nepal, in Thame, my father's village. Half the village was wiped out just last year, last June, I think it was, when a glacial lake burst because, of the glacial melting. Ice is melting so fast that the lakes were overflowing, and then it just breached, its barriers, and then the whole village got wiped out. So this is dangerous. And how do we prevent it? I don't know. I think it's up to the countries, of heads of different countries to, make sure they do something with climate change.
Not just climate change, as we spoke about commercialization, overcrowding.
Yes.
Now, for communities like you and the Sherpas, mountains are the livelihood. Mountains are where your legends are born.
Yes.
Mountains are your life. So what would you like to tell the policymakers about preserving the ecosystem of the Himalayas?
See, overcrowding of mountains, with having too many people, it's a big issue because number one, there's a lot of waste. Mount Everest has been named as the highest dump yard, garbage yard in the world. Up at the South Col, there's rubbish of all kinds up there. We've made efforts. I've been involved in several expeditions to bring back rubbish from the high camps and the base camps and other places also. And the other issue we have is human waste. You have 1,000 people on a mountain, small mountain like that, having human waste everywhere. And everything is going to come down through the rivers, it's going to feed through the rivers. So that's a big problem for us. So, and the glacial melting is a big issue for us. And I think the policymakers, especially in this case, the Nepalese government, they should restrict the number of climbers that go up. In 1996, after the big disaster, the government said, all right, we're going to limit the number of expeditions that go up. But that happened for a few months. And just before the climbing season started, they started giving out permits like anything. There were more climbers, the next year. And they've said this many times, but it never worked. And this year, they proposed, the tourism sector and the Nepalese government proposed that to limit the number of climbers, we're going to raise the fees from $11,000 to $15,000 per person. That's only the royalty you pay. And they said they're going to have people climb a 7,000 meter peak before they can climb a 8,000 meter peak, which is a good decision. And I certainly hope that they hold on to this decision. Now, when we were climbing back then, the government required us to get a certificate, a no objection certificate, and a fitness certificate from our country's head mountaineering, institute.
Yeah.
But they don't do that anymore. The other thing we started also on the mountain was that we saw the Sherpas carrying the supplies and going up and realized they're coming back with nothing.
Right.
So we said, all right, why don't we start the incentive to pay the Sherpas to bring rubbish back? And we'll pay them by the kilo.
Okay.
So, and it's all downhill. So we realized that everybody wanted to take up on this. It's extra money for them.
Right.
So this way we were able to bring a lot of rubbish down. And just recently, actually just this season, they started the drones. To carry some supplies to the base camp to Camp 1 only. And from Camp 1, they would bring rubbish back down also.
Okay.
So we're trying different systems.
Okay. You also do a lot of social work, right, in the villages in Himalayas. So what are the causes you focus on?
My father, and can say that there were no two people that could have climbed Mount Everest better than my father and Hillary. Because these were the two gentlemen that were very humble, simple, both of them, very humble, simple. The climb of Everest gave hope to millions of people around the world. They were worshipped and they were heroes. But they went up as simple climbers. They came back as heroes, and they continued the rest of their lives as humble, simple human beings, giving back to the community. Hillary went back to build schools and hospitals and in the Himalayas. My father did the same, joining hands with him to help the Sherpa people and the people that lived in the shoulders of the Himalayas. And we continue that trade even today with our family foundation, the Tenzing Norgay Sherpa Foundation, the Hillary Trust. Both families work together. I work a lot of my time nowadays goes in social work, philanthropic work, working with the widows of Sherpas that have died on the mountain.
Okay.
Young widows, with young children, helping the widows, because the insurance they get, a death insurance they claim for the mountain, on a mountain is hardly $15,000. This is not going to last the family 1 or 2 years. So we are involved in helping with the education of the children, supporting the widows.
We spoke a lot about the Mount Everest, but beyond Mount Everest, is there any other mountain that has really, tested your limits or challenged you and your skills?
Actually, one of the other expeditions that I remember very well and that was very challenging was in 2016, we recreated the Antarctic, the South Georgia Antarctic crossing of Ernest Shackleton. Ernest Shackleton was one of the greatest. His story, was he wanted to be the first to go to Antarctica, but his ship got stuck in the ice, and then it got crushed. And one of the greatest survival stories in history till up to date, in the world, where he and his, I think, 28-member crew survived in Antarctica under those extreme conditions for 2 years.
Oh.
2 years, and nobody died. He was able to keep the group intact for 2 years, and the rest of the world thought, they'd gone. And he was able to save his team. But he and 3 of his mates sailed almost like 500 nautical miles in a small boat, 3 of them, and to get help. And then once they reached the other end of the island.
Okay.
So now they had to get across the island to get to the whaling station. So he did the 36 hours. They crossed across, this, the South Georgia island. So we recreated that same thing in 2016 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Shackleton's crossing.
Okay.
So this was done with Peter Hillary, Hillary's son and myself. And then we had a team, about 8 people from National Geographic. And so we recreated the 36 hours. And that was one of the most difficult treks across the glacier. You can look through just like looking at the ocean. You think it's the end over there, but it never ends. It just continues.
Just goes.
And that's how it felt.
Okay. But talking of recreation, I think you and Peter Hillary, that's Edmund Hillary's son, together recreated this expedition on Mount Everest also in 2002. So that was also a very symbolic expedition, so to say.
Yes, actually, the whole idea was National Geographic wanted to celebrate 50 years of our father's climb.
Right.
So they thought both the sons, to recreate the climb in 2002, which was going to be released in 2003 for the 50th anniversary. But the only thing was that I was not given permission by my family to climb the mountain. They said, you go to base camp, and that's as far as you're going to go.
Okay.
And but it was a great expedition. Peter Hillary made it to the summit.
Okay.
I was there at base camp as a support, to support him. And so we did make a very nice documentary called Surviving Everest, on the mountain. It was a great way to pay tribute to both our fathers.
Your climb was actually filmed as a film by IMAX. Tell us something about that experience. How was it? While climbing the mountains, the filming was being done.
In 95, David Brishes, the leader of our expedition, and he's a filmmaker and, a great mountaineer. I met him on the way to base camp, and he said, Jamling, I want you to join my team. We're going to make an IMAX film. I had no idea what an IMAX was at the time. And so I was more than happy. This is something I wanted to do all my life, and I was finally given the opportunity.
Right.
And the whole idea of the IMAX film was Greg McGillivray, one of the IMAX filmmakers, in Los Angeles, thought the highest mountain in the world and the biggest camera in the world. Let's make a movie.
Okay.
And it's never been done. And a normal IMAX camera weighs almost about 100 something kilos. You have to move it on wheels, and it's very difficult. They had to redesign the camera, and they said, here's a small camera for you. It weighs only 22 kilos. 22 kilos for a camera, the body alone is still very heavy. And a roll of film weighed about 6 kilos. And when you open the film out, it was about 1,000 feet long. And when you shot the film, it lasted 90 seconds, one film. And we had batteries were redesigned. The film was redesigned so it didn't break, in the brittle cold. So a lot of research went into making this film, the IMAX possible. And then we had a great director and, climber, David Brishes, who was behind the camera. Very, very particular, very, about every shot that he wanted. He wanted it perfect. He was a perfectionist. We had action, and we started moving, cut. We had to do retakes, takes after takes sometimes. And every time we shoot a roll of film, on the mountain, we send our film down to base camp. And the next day, it's carried by a Sherpa all the way to Lukla, near the airport. And from there, the next morning is sent to Kathmandu and then to Los Angeles immediately. And then 2 days later, we'll be talking with the producers in Los Angeles. And they would say, all right, on the satellite phone, saying, all right, I like the shot of Jamling, but his right side is on the shade. You need to redo that shot.
Oh.
So we were doing these things all the time. And when we were up on the mountain.
At what altitude was all this happening?
This is all happening above 21,000 feet.
Wow.
And on the summit, we had one roll of film and 90 seconds. So it had to be loaded bare hands, and we were loading anything bare hands at these altitudes. You had to do really quickly, otherwise you'll get frostbite.
But you focus then on climbing rightly, or you focus on whether the filming is happening properly?
Both, simultaneously, yeah. We were climbing and then we waited with the camera because Sherpas were carrying the camera. It's a heavy camera.
Right.
So we waited there, again, loaded the camera, shot the film. Again, we went up. And sometimes we had to film at these dangerous locations because we want to make it exciting for the public to view, So wow, they feel like. So we risked our lives to make these dangerous shots, rock falls or avalanche coming down. And then when the film is actually finished, and then you look back, watch the film, and then at the time you realize that all the hard work you did really paid off.
And that was your climb to the summit, your first climb to the summit.
That was my first time.
And talking of the other mountains, I mean, I understand that this mountain Annapurna, that's supposed to be the most dangerous climb in the world. I think some fatality rate is some 33%. What makes it the most dangerous climb in the world?
Well, Annapurna is known as the most dangerous mountain because of the avalanches.
Okay.
These avalanches are very frequent on that mountain. So a lot of the people that have died because of avalanches, a lot of great climbers have died in Annapurna. Now, recently, I think the Korean climber Park Young, I think his name is, but he had done, all the 8,000 meter peaks. He had done South Col, North Col. He had done everything, the Grand Slam. And then he went back to Annapurna to climb a different route, and he died up there, the avalanche. K2 is the other one, where avalanches, kill a lot of people.
So talking about your family, the Norgay family, I mean, it's not just that, of course, Tenzing climbed the Mount Everest. You climbed the Mount Everest, but I believe that, amongst your extended family, you've been part of 120 summit expeditions. So how do you see the Norway family legacy going forward?
Well, we have a lot of relatives that have climbed, cousins, uncles, and almost 16 of them. And we have also lost family members on the mountain. And we have 3 generations, that have climbed this mountain as well.
Okay.
But our family members, will continue to climb.
Right.
Right now I have a young cousin who's continuing to climb. He's climbed 7 times, and he's just, he's not going to stop because that is his livelihood. And but as far as my family is concerned, I have 3 daughters. My younger daughter, my younger twin daughter, Pelzum, she's at home with me. So she joins me on a lot of my expeditions and my treks. I take her with me.
Okay.
We were recently on Mira Peak, which is about 21,000 feet. It's a relatively easy mountain to climb, but I took her on that climb with me with some of my guests. But that was a lesson to be learned at that time again, is when I went with her, we went to the hike, we were walking towards the high camp, and I realized that the weather was not getting any better. So it was either that we go to the high camp, which is another 2 hours, and then we go to the summit and come back, or we go back. And at that time, I just made a decision, professional decision that I'm going to turn back. So all of us came back down and went back to the base camp and stayed there.
Okay.
And there was a big group of climbers up there at that time. There were almost about 12, 14 of them that were going up. And I was quite surprised at why they were going up. I didn't have a time to talk to them also. But later on, when we got back, the next day we found out that 2 of those climbers, they lost their lives. And basically they were lost. They couldn't find them in the in the blizzard and in the storm.
So making the right decision at the right time is so important. of course, we have common friends, and I know from them that you're not just a loving father, but you're also a very doting husband. I think you make some great meals for your wife.
I enjoy cooking. I learned cooking from my father. He used to
Okay.
love cooking. He used to enjoy cooking. He used to make all different types of meals for us, And it's...
So, but he used to make, Tenzing used to make what, Nepalese meals?
No,
or,
he used to make continental food.
Continental food
Yeah,
for
he
you.
was,
Okay.
he was very famous because he traveled so much.
Right,
That
right.
you see something that he tried at home, whatever, fish and pastas or whatever he'd enjoy
Okay.
making. And so I enjoy, sometimes if given the opportunity, I enjoy being in the kitchen and helping
Okay.
out. But I think family is important, to spend with the family, because this is one of the things that I did not get with my father or my parents.
Okay.
When you go on adventures, you risk, the chances of coming back alive is almost 50-50, a lot of times. So now, like I said earlier, I've sort of backed down on, most of my climbs and taking more time off. Like I said, we were in boarding school for almost 9 months in a year. And we have a winter holidays for 2 months, and a lot of time my father is traveling. So we didn't have that connection. So I don't want to miss that connection with my children. They were in boarding school also most of the time, but I've been traveling myself as well. So I'm trying to, just bond and try to get that connection back with my family. So I think right now that is in my radar is to, focus on the family.
There's also one more important thing you said earlier, that is how trekking itself is become such a good way of family bonding. Because as you said, you're going, then you're just the four of you, the five of you, climbing, moving, spending time together and coming back, and without all the clutter of shopping and malls so on and so forth. Yes.
Yeah, I think it's a great way to get out and bond with the family.
Yes.
Yeah, you keep all the phones away, no social media, no network.
That's right.
Just the four of you, five of you as a family together. And I think I would encourage that to whoever's watching, whoever's listening on this, is there's so much that we have, our country has to offer.
Yes.
You don't have to go outside our country. You don't have to go to Europe or America to experience.
Yes.
Everything is here within the country. There's plenty of places to, explore and learn, because we have a diverse culture in this country.
Yes, we have not just culture, we just have so much diversity in the country. We can get the best of mountains, we can get the best of beaches, we can get, the backwaters. So there's just so much that our country has to offer. What would you like to tell, our listeners about how should they climb the Everest? Not the mountain, just the Everest, the peak in their life. What is required to get there?
Everyone has their own Everest to climb.
Right.
I always say, climb your own Everest.
Yes.
And there are ways to do it. Don't take shortcuts. As Ed Vishers mentions, there are no shortcuts to the top. Life is a journey. One of the most important things is you have certain goals in life. Everyone has certain goals, in life.
Yes.
So getting to that goal is not easy. They need to remember that. It's tough. Life is difficult. Focus on your goal, but most importantly, you need to be passionate about what you do. If you're not passionate about climbing or scuba diving or something, don't do it just because you want to take a photo. Do it because you enjoy it. If you're not passionate about your work environment, where you're working, whether it's accounting or, in the computer engineer or something, you shouldn't be there. You should enjoy what you do. If you enjoy what you do, you'll perform even better.
Right.
So don't do it just for the sake of doing it,
You said life is a journey. It's an unscripted journey,
Yes.
And of course, life in the mountains can be the ultimate unscripted expedition in that sense. Have you had any unscripted moment, an unexpected moment? You never expected it, but it actually changed your path forever.
Getting married, number one, was unscripted. I didn't, expect that to happen quite as quickly as I wanted. And it has changed my life.
Okay.
It helped me focus on my life and my career.
Okay.
You know, and helped me focus on my climb of this mountain. You know, and number 2 is climbing Everest alone in 1996,
Right.
which was a big part of my life. Climbing Mount Everest has changed my life. You know, it's changed who I am. It's got me recognition, not as the son of Tenzing, but as Jamling Tenzing. You know,
That's
I try to make a mark on my own. I did not want to be in the shadows of my father all the time. You know, it gave me the opportunity to grow. And I think I learned a lot from that.
So now it's the time to breathe lighter. You know?
Okay.
We come to the last section of my episode, which is I'll ask you some very short questions. You give me impromptu answers, whatever comes first to your mind.
Okay.
So, the most beautiful sunrise you've ever seen as a mountaineer?
The most beautiful sunrise I've seen was on Everest itself. The day we were climbing, because we leave at midnight. So as you get up towards the southeast ridge, you start to hit the sunrise. You know, sunrise comes, and one of the greatest view is you're on Everest, looking at the shadow of Everest way down there at the back. You know, in the Himalayas. With the sunrise, one of the most beautiful. I'll send you a photo of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
really
That would be
beautiful.
fantastic. 1996.
Yes.
Okay. When you are at that high altitude, what food do you miss the most?
Oh, dal bhat.
Dal bhat.
Dal bhat, yeah.
Okay.
Dal and curry, you know,
Okay.
a thali. You
Yes, yes.
know,
Yeah.
staple food, because you don't get to eat that up there as
Right,
much.
right.
In altitude, you're eating a lot of dehydrated food, prepackaged food. You know, you just dip in the water, boil it, and then eat from the packet. It's not tasty at all, but healthy for you.
Okay. Any comfort ritual that you always follow before you start an expedition?
Well, while on an expedition or on any treks that I do a lot of meditation.
Okay.
You know, in the morning, just take some time off for yourself, breathing, you know, a lot of breathing in and out. And mantras, you know, we have our Tibetan mantras, we do Om Mani Padme Hum, you know, and we have certain mantras that and that keeps your mind relaxed, you know, and calm, and then you're able to walk properly.
Oh, that's interesting. You see a lot of people doing that?
The Sherpas do that a lot.
The Sherpas do
the
that
Sherpas do that a
always.
lot.
One thing that you will always pack for your expedition.
I will always pack tsamba.
What's that?
Tsampa is basically a barley. It's barley powder, which is a staple diet for the Tibetans and the Sherpas.
Okay.
And it's very healthy.
And what is the one thing that no one should ever pack when they go on an expedition?
No one should ever pack ego. And I think ego.
Ego.
Yeah. And arrogance.
Right,
Never pack these two things when you're going on a mountain.
right.
Keep them behind. Keep your ego and everything behind.
Yeah, you have to go with humility and
Yes,
you have to go
exactly.
with mental determination.
Yes.
Ice axe or satellite phone? What is more essential during your climb?
I would definitely say ice axe. You know, ice axe is the equipment, the tool you need on the mountain. If you don't have that, you're not only be able to climb this mountain.
So then the satellite phone is of no use anyway.
Exactly, yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yaks or helicopters?
Well, helicopters are more convenient, easier these days. But I would still continue to prefer yaks because getting yaks would basically help support the local community. You know, you're giving employment to the people that work over there who have yaks. You know, it's a good opportunity for them.
What's harder to survive? Minus 30-degree blizzard outside the tent, or a tent mate snoring inside the tent when you are on the mountain?
Well, snoring, definitely.
Snoring.
Yeah, because, you know, at altitude, you don't sleep much.
Right.
You know, and the little sleep that you get, you want a peaceful sleep. You don't want somebody snoring.
If the Everest could speak today, what would she have to tell all of us?
I think she'll probably say that, you know, respect the environment. One of the first things, respect the environment and don't take the environment for granted. Because we're only visitors.
Right.
You know, and Everest, a mountain like Everest makes you feel how small and tiny we are with nature. You know, nature has the ultimate say.
One thing that the mountain has taught you, which no book could have taught you.
Humility. You know, I think one of the greatest things about the mountain is teaches you to respect not only the environment, but your teammates and, others that are on the mountain.
And what is your next Everest in life, metaphorically speaking?
Well, I tried, getting to the top of Mount Everest was not the end of my goal.
Right.
It was just the beginning.
Okay.
We have to set ourselves to new challenges and not be afraid to dream of new ideas, because it's the next challenge, it's the next challenge that motivates and inspires us. I try to keep my life interesting by trying to do different things, away from the normal. Instead of doing an Everest Base Camp trek, I try to do another trek where people haven't gone before.
Okay.
People haven't tried. Try to find new routes, make life interesting.
Right.
And one of the things right now, talking with Peter Hillary, is the two of us are trying to get a team together and some sponsors together to recreate the ocean to sky journey, which was done by his father in the mid-70s.
Okay.
And it's basically going from the Bay of Bengal and retracing all the way through the Ganges to the source of the Ganges on these small jet boats.
Okay.
And then when we reach the source, then we want to climb the peak where the source came from.
Okay. So ocean to the sky.
So that's what we are been working on, but I think it's going to take some time before we can accomplish.
Okay. So on that note, Jamling, thank you so very much. I think this was a very exciting and a very interesting conversation.
Thank you.
I feel your journey is not just about climbing the mountains. I think your journey has been about elevating perspectives. Because what you've told all of us is that whatever we want to climb, whether the mountain or whether our own ambition, I think it requires, of course, not just physical fitness, but it requires the mental strength. It requires the spiritual connect to our goal. And of course, it requires the fact that we should value our team, that also that we should be ready to take any tough decision at any point in that journey. And it's okay to come back, to take a step back, and then try again in a better manner. I think you also told us that sometimes touching the sky starts with touching the soul.
Yeah.
So for everyone listening and everyone watching, I just want to remind you that journey is always unscripted. It could be in the mountain or it could just be in your regular day-to-day life. But also I want to tell you that, each of us have our own Mount Everest, have our own peak, which we strive for. So let's all resolve that we will continue to strive to get to our peak, to get to our Everest with the best of our ability and dedication and thought process. See you in the next episode. And thank you, Jamling.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.